Dear students, hello and welcome to our virtual chemistry class. This is Mohammad Asif Iqbal, Senior Teacher, Department of Chemistry, Milestone College. In this class, I'm going to discuss with you Chapter 10, Mineral Resource, Metal, Non-Metal. In this chapter, I'm going to discuss with you how we can extract metal and non-metal from the nature which we use in our everyday life. This chapter also important for your SSC exam. So, dear students, you must watch this class from beginning to end with utmost sincerity. We obtain all our necessary metals, non-metals and metalloids from the earth. Especially, we are living on the surface of the earth, and the surface of the earth consists of different types of metals and non-metals. The outer layer of earth is known as earth crust, and earth crust is actually made of these substances. You can see that 46% of oxygen is contributing to form the earth crust. 3% sodium are present in the earth crust. Potassium remain 3%, calcium 4%, iron 5%, aluminum 8.4%, silicon 27%. You can see 27% silicon are present in the surface of the earth. Magnesium 2%, and all other remaining is only 2%. These are the materials which contribute to form the crust of the earth. One of the most important substances which are available on the surface of the earth is rock, from where we can extract metal and non-metal. So, what actually rocks are? Different mineral substances mix up to make particles which again combine together into a substance which is called rock. I repeat once again, it's a very important thing. Different mineral substances mix up to make particles. So they have some property to mix up and to connect with each other, which is something like glue property, which again combine together. These particles combine together into a substance which is called rock. Rock can be divided in three different groups: igneous rock, sedimentary rocks, and metamorphic rocks. After knowing the name of different kinds of rock, you may ask question, what actually these rocks are, or how these rocks can form. The first one is igneous rock. Due to the volcanic eruption, different types of mixture underneath the earth, molten mixture underneath the earth come out, and which is known as magma. This magma in course of time cool down and become rock. That rock is known as igneous rock. And sedimentary rock are such kinds of rock which actually form due to the sediment, due to the climate, weather, rainfall, wind, sand and clay wash away from one place to another place. When they connect with each other, there are different types of layer is formed. This layer in course of time become the rock, which is known as sedimentary rock. Last but not least, metamorphic rock. At various different temperature and pressure, igneous rock and sedimentary rock turn into a new kinds of rock, which is known as metamorphic rocks. We extract essential metals and non-metals from the minerals. So, what actually minerals are? The definition of minerals is the substance available above and underneath the soil from which we get necessary metals and non-metals to make various products are known as minerals. So we already introduced with the minerals, but in many cases it happened that extraction process is not profitable. That means the amount of metals or non-metals which you get from the minerals are not profitable when in extraction process. So depending on the profitability, we can classify minerals in other group which is known as ores. So what actually ores are? The mineral from which metals and non-metals can be extracted profitably are called ores. I repeat once again, the mineral from which metals and non-metals can be extracted profitably are called ore. For example, galena, which is an ore from where we can get lead, iron pyrites, from where we can extract iron. So these are the examples of ores. Initially, it was believed that minerals can only be found beneath the earth. However, now it is believed that mineral can be found on the surface of the earth. Especially in the beach of the Cox's there are different types of mineral. Zirconium, zircon are found, and halogens are found from the seawater. So how actually we can collect these metals or non-metals? The process by which metal is extracted from different ores are known as metal extraction. We know that different metal has different characteristics. Some metals are highly active and others are non-active. For example, gold, platinum are non-active metals. They can be found in pure form in the nature. On the other hand, aluminum, sodium, potassium are highly active metal. They are not found in the nature. They are collecting by electrolysis process. In most cases, in every time, metal extraction process take different steps, and in most of the case, the steps which are taken in metal extraction process are provided below. You can see the steps taken extracting metals are crushing of ores, condensation of ores, conversion of condensed ore to oxides, conversion of metallic oxide to free metals, purification of metals. So these are the steps which is taken to extract most of the metals. The first steps is crushing the ores. If the stone of ore is in big size, in that case we need to crush it down into small size. So first we go through the crushing. The machine that we use to crush down the big size ore is jaw crusher. By using jaw crusher, we make large stone into the small pieces, and then we use ball crusher to make that particles more smaller, even in powder size. After crushing the ore, the powder of ore is found. This ore contains different types of impurities, and we need to wash out these impurities. The process by which we can deduce impurities from the ores are known as condensation of ores. In condensation process, the amount of ore from where we can extract metal are increased. So what are the steps we can take to condense the ore? Number 1 step, hydrolytic method. Number 2, fourth floating method. Number 3, magnetic separation method. And last, chemical method. These are the method through which we can deduce the impurities from the ore, and the condensation or the amount of ore from where we can extract metal is increasing in a certain volume of the substance. In the hydrolytic method, we usually apply hydrolytic method for the oxide ores. We know that oxide ores are heavier than the impurities which present in the powder of the ore. So we take this ore on the slanted chambered table and we allow water to wash away. So when water is go through, the heavier oxide ore remain in the chamber. On the other hand, lighter impurities washed away by the water. So by this method we can take out impurities from the oxides ore. The next one is fourth floating method. This method usually applied for the supplied ore. We take the ores in a large tank where we add water. After adding water, we slowly add oil and we pass air into the solution. So in this process, sulfide ore actually mixed up with air and created foam and froth, and which floated on the top of the container, and the impurities of the ore remain at the bottom of the container. So we take out the froth from the container and we can get the ore by this fourth floating method. And the third method is magnetic separation method. This method is applied for that ore which has magnetic properties. So by using the magnet, we can separate the ores which has the magnetic properties and impurities which does not have magnetic properties. One of the important part in condensation of ore is chemical method. Through chemical method, we can clean up the impurities from the ore and we can intensify the condensation of the expected minerals. For example, in aluminum extraction, we use bauxite. From the bauxite, we collect the aluminum oxide. Bauxite is added with iron oxide, titanium oxide, sand, and all other impurities. So, taking out the aluminum oxide is very important to collect the aluminum. So, what are the steps? In the first step, we added sodium hydroxide with bauxite, and we heat up it 1500 to 2000 degrees Celsius temperature, and it will produce sodium aluminate. You can see on the board. Now in this process, bauxite react with sodium hydroxide at 1500 to 2000 degrees Celsius temperature, and it will produce sodium aluminate plus water molecule. When we allow water molecule to react with sodium aluminate at high temperature, then it will produce sodium hydroxide and aluminum hydroxide. You can see we know that sodium hydroxide dissolves in solution in water. On the other hand, aluminum hydroxide does not dissolve. So in the solution, we can collect aluminum hydroxide as residue. After collecting aluminum hydroxide, we can heat up aluminum hydroxide in 1100 degrees Celsius. And aluminum oxide is collected from the solution. So these are the method through which we can collect aluminum oxide from the bauxite, and we can segregate different types of impurities from aluminum oxide. The third steps of metal extraction is conversion of condensed ore to oxides. Now, conversion ores into metal oxide can be done by two ways. Number one, calcination of ores. Number two, roasting. Now, what is calcination of ore? In calcination of ore, the process where we heat up the ore below the melting point of the ore at the absence of air. And in this process, if water, carbon dioxide, oxide, hydroxide, or bicarbonate present in the ore, it will remove from the ore. So if we are not removing these impurities in the initial stage, it will become very difficult to remove later. So in the calcination process, what actually happened, you can see when we heat up the ore below the melting point, at the absence of air, impurities are removed away from the ore and the condensation of ore increases. You can see when we heat up the calcium carbonate, it will produce calcium oxide and carbon dioxide. Similar way, when we heat up the zinc carbonate, it will produce zinc oxide and carbon dioxide. So I repeat once again, calcination process must conduct in the place where air is absent. By this process, organic substance, water, carbonate, bicarbonate and hydroxyl impurities are wiped out from the metal ore. The next method is roasting. This method usually applied for the sulfide ores. So how actually roasting take place? When we heat up the ores below the melting point of the ore, at the presence of air, the sulfide ore from the ore, different types of impurities, organic substance and moisture removed from the ore as sulfur dioxide. So you can see the reaction. Lead sulfide, when heat up at the presence of lead sulfide, when heat up, it will produce lead oxide and sulfur dioxide. You can see it will produce lead oxide and sulfur dioxide. So in this process, oxide of ore is found and the sulfide which remain in the ore is going out by forming sulfur dioxide. So this is the two process through which we can condense the ore. The fourth method is conversion of metallic oxide to free metals. After converting the condensed metal into the oxide by calcination and roasting method, we extract metal by reduction process. So different types of reduction process are taken. They are electrolysis process or carbon reduction process or auto reduction. It depends on the reactivity of the metals, and when the reactivity of the metal is very high, then we take electrolysis process. When the reactivity of metal is less, then we take carbon reduction process, and the metals which has lower reactivity can be extracted by auto reduction process. Now I'm going to write down the classification of different metals depending on their reactivity. There are different metal extraction process are remain, and this metal extraction process is totally depend on the nature of metal, and the reactivity of metals are different, and metal can be separated depending on their reactivities in 4 different groups, and they are highly reactive metals. In this group, the metals are potassium, sodium, calcium, magnesium and aluminum. This highly reactive metal cannot extract by any chemical method, so we use electrolysis method to reduce this metal from metal ore. Now the second category is medium standard reactive metal, and in this family the metals which are present is zinc, iron and lead. This metal can extract carbon reduction process. And the third groups are less reactive metals, And in this group, the metals which are present, copper, mercury and silver. This metal can easily extracted by Ortfeld reduction method. Last but not least, non-reactive metals. And in this group, we can see two of the metals are provided in here, platinum and gold. These metals need not extract from any ores. These metals are found in pure form in nature. Dear students, hope that you have understood all the topics discussed in this class. If you have any problem, if you have any query, please ask the question to your respective chemistry teacher. And thank you for being present.